Hi, this is Susan Bennett, the original voice of Siri. Here's what's coming up today on another great episode of On the Nose with Randall Kenneth Jones.
I have like a radar when people feel superior to others. I can sniff it out immediately, and it's a real turnoff for me. I actually do think, to the extent that any of us, this is my philosophy too, to the extent that any of us matter objectively, the thing that we want, we all matter to that same degree, the exact same degree. It's our longing to matter, this poignant uncertainty in us that makes us matter.
If you believe that everyone you meet knows something you don't know, then you're ready for the next bold evolution of the Jones Show podcast. On the Nose with Randall Kenneth Jones introduces you to people who are in the know and ready to share their special brand of know-how with you. From artists, authors, and activists to entertainers, educators, and entrepreneurs, On the Nose will elevate your ability to influence the world we share. Here's the host of On the Nose, Randall Kenneth Jones.
Has anybody growled at you? I want to do this show so bad. I have been waiting to do this show. I have been waiting for this book. I got sick last week. I had to cancel, which I hate. I'm a Virgo, so I didn't want to do that. So Rebecca Newberger Goldstein is with me to discuss a new book, and I am overjoyed that you are here.
I am very happy to be here too.
So anybody growled at you yet at the beginning? Because I'm just like, I was like, what do I do? I'm going, no, I want to do this. I'm ready to do this.
I've been growled at, but that was a friendly growl.
It was a friendly growl. It was a friendly growl. I discovered this book, The Mattering Instinct, How Our Deepest Longing Drives Us and Divides Us, recently came out. I got all excited. I wrote you an email. We're gonna revisit our initial way we met. I wrote you an email. I said, Rebecca, I happened upon news of your new book online today, and it stopped me in my tracks. Seriously, to me, this is the topic to end all topics. My keynote is even called The Importance of Importance. To say I'm excited to read The Mattering Instinct is an understatement, followed by why you should talk to me. A whole lot of name dropping and why you should talk to me. An hour later or so, I get a message back from you. Hi, Randy. Thanks so much for writing to me. And yes, let's chat soon. I have someone arranging my podcast schedule, but I like your approach. So let's just arrange it ourselves. Tell me how you'd like to proceed. Tell me how you'd like to proceed. My best, Rebecca. How do you think your response to me made me feel?
Oh, I would say it was positive, not negative.
It made me feel like I mattered.
Like you mattered. Yeah, I didn't want to be presumptuous because,
It made me feel like I mattered. And your publicist is lovely, who has helped out. Oh, she's lovely.
Her. Yeah.
But for you to honor my approach, honor my enthusiasm, and to say, I'm going to just take care of this on my own, it truly made me feel like I mattered.
Yeah. Well, I can see that your initial approach to me made me feel like I matter. This is part of what we can do for each other.
Right.
This reciprocal feeling of mattering.
And that's why I've been saying this and why I was so thrilled, because as in my very simplified version, The Importance of Importance, everyone wants to feel like they're important, valued, loved, appreciated, respected, heard. Pick your word.
Yeah.
As you know, there's any number of words that will describe the basic same need. And then to discover that you have taken your background, your knowledge, which is extensive, and applied it to this book. I mean, you have a PhD in philosophy of science from Princeton. You've taught at Yale, Columbia, NYU, Dartmouth, and Harvard. In 2015, you were awarded the National Humanities Medal by President Obama. None of these things are on my resume. None of them.
Well, I can barely believe they're on mine, especially that last one. That was yeah.
Well, and that's, of course, front and center on your website. It should be. I
That's to
mean,
remind me it really happened because it's hard to assimilate.
just extraordinary. Now, okay, now here is my confession, and I sometimes start by confessing to my authors. I typically read the entire book before I have an author on. I pick your book up when I get it, as you know, because where I'm emailing, I'm excited. I start to highlight. So I get to the end of the first page, I've highlighted the entire first page. Okay. So
Wow.
I get to the second page
Yeah.
and I'm highlighting okay, we got a problem here. Randy, you can't highlight the entire book because I just was finding nugget after nugget. I mean, it was so much information that I wanted so desperately. And then I went, okay, well, I want to memorize this. I want to know everything that's in this book. Again, a bit unrealistic for one read. So I made a decision. I've read about 30% of it.
Right.
Because I don't believe in devouring a book that you need to have a relationship with.
I love that. I love that.
And
Yeah.
I want to have a relationship with the book. I want to learn it. I want to apply it. Hopefully you will have a positive experience with me today that you will come back because this is something that means so much to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wanted to be candid. I felt like I was doing you a disservice if I just gobbled up the whole book rather than trying to find moments that really spoke to me now.
I appreciate that so much. I think this is my 11th book, and I want everything I've ever written to be read slowly because it takes me so long to think out the ideas, but especially this book. I've been thinking out the ideas of this book, well,
Since 1983.
since
Since 1983. Yeah,
1983.
yeah.
That's a long time. And so, I'm not, in my field in philosophy, there's this, you say, to be fast on your feet. You get a lot of points for getting up, people throwing objections at you, and you immediately blah, blah, just block them this way, this way, this way. And I'm not. I'm very slow on my feet. I'm I kind of dwell, and so I write slowly and I think slowly, and I feel like I produce books that need to be read slowly. So this is music to my ears.
You're not giving yourself credit for what you really just said. You think. Doesn't matter whether it's slowly.
Right.
You think.
Well,
And you
yeah.
think and you process and you apply and you research before you put something out into the world. Now, 1983 to present, that's a very, very long time.
It's a
I'll give you
lifetime.
that.
That's a lifetime.
But
Yeah.
let's make sure that really people are hearing what you just said. You are really taking the time to process and thoughtfully put your work out into the world as opposed to just sending it out there.
Yeah. No, I'm not quick, and with these ideas especially, they sort of kept building on me, and to tell you the truth, I was a little afraid because, again, I'm trained in what's called analytic philosophy. We like to take on very small
Mhm.
problems, little niggly problems, and nothing grand. And the more I thought about this, a whole theory of human nature was growing in my head, and I was suspicious of, I'm suspicious of big theories, especially my own. And so I kept putting pieces out to get objections, think about them, ponder, reflect. So this has been, I introduced later on in the book the notion of a mattering project. And this is, this has been my mattering project,
Well,
this book.
let's jump in. I have so many different things that I want to ask you, and this is just visit one, since I've already sort of got you to commit that there will be a visit two.
I'd love to.
What is a public intellectual that's
Yeah,
in your? No, I love it. I love it. I love it. I
yeah.
love it. I love it. I love it. What's a public intellectual?
Yeah,
That's in your bio, and I love it.
yeah, this was not put there by me. I think that somebody who has even the privilege that I've been given to think for my living, to get paid for thinking, which is what I love to do, um, should share their ideas for the common good and, have something to say about the big issues facing us, and never more urgently than today's.
Well, and
Yeah.
I mean, look at your subhead, how our deepest longing drives us and divides us.
Yes.
And that is profoundly, frighteningly true
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
frighteningly true today. I have to make a little bit, okay, if I'm a little stuffy, I still have a cold. I have a dreaded man cold, which we all know what that means. Even my dog has been lobbying my husband to have me put down because he's tired of listening to it. So, I mean, do you think that in the last week or so I've wanted to matter? Oh, yes. I have
It
let
never it
everyone
never
know.
it never lets up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man cold. Whoo. So we're hanging in there with the man cold because I was driven to do this. I'm going to read something from the book. Every living thing is organically driven by a mandate that ensures it matters to itself, which is to say that it prioritizes its own surviving and thriving. And life forms as massive as blue whales and as scanty as a sliver of grass struggling up through the crack in the sidewalk, biology encodes the message of self-mattering.
Yeah. It is the key to all living systems, that they matter to themselves. Well, to matter, as I define it, means deserving of attention. And of course, not all living systems, a blade of grass doesn't pay attention, but it behaves as if it's paying attention. It is doing what it needs to do in order to survive, ultimately to pass on its genes. That's how natural selection
And it's
works.
science.
This is science, exactly.
You have two expressions, the longing to matter and the mattering instinct, and you said you would use them interchangeably in the
Yeah,
book. I put forth that they're not exactly the same to me.
let me hear.
Longing implies emotion,
Yeah,
and instinct implies science.
right.
To me,
Mhm,
I
mhm.
mean, am I anywhere around some truth in my theory?
Yeah, no, I think that that's true. When I use the word instinct, I'm really stressing, the origins of this thing, the
Mm-hmm.
genealogy of this
Mm-hmm.
thing, and that we are uh, wired to feel ourselves deserving of our own attention. And you're right, the longing comes in at a somewhat later stage of human development.
Mm.
Yeah, yes.
We will
When
get to that.
We'll
That's a
get to that.
whole
Yes,
topic. Yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
you're
We've already sort of touched upon that in our emails. Absolutely.
exactly. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, yes, yes. But you are right that the laws of nature bring us to a certain point. They certainly make us feel ourselves deserving of our own attention. I mean, when we're just chugging along in our lives, we are taking ourselves seriously, and we have to in order to be able to live a human life. We're making plans, we're, we're acting on our desires, and it's we're in our lives, and we have to take ourselves seriously. We have to be paying ourselves attention how the, environment is affecting us, um, which is the emotions are in there to give us feedback about that. Um, and yeah, that is that self-mattering, and all creatures who are complex enough to have evolved attention prioritize attention to themselves and their environment and
So,
the
so here's one thing that's jumping out at me too. We're worthy of our attention to ourselves,
yeah.
but we're worthy of the attention from other people as well.
Well, we need to feel that in order to have a life
Okay.
of flourishing. On pain of uh, the great pain of loneliness. I mean, there have to
Uh-huh.
be some people in our lives that are willing to pay us attention as a kind of given, whether we deserve it or not.
It's a need, right? Right.
That's a need.
Well,
We're gregarious creatures, and
whether we deserve it
we're
or not, that's a big one. That's a big one
that's
right
a big
there.
one.
Yeah, that's a
That's what
big one right there.
having people in your life, your family, your lovers, your colleagues, your friends, whoever it is who's in your life. You don't necessarily have to love them. They don't have to love you, but they pay you attention. You know that attention is coming to you from them. And I'm a great reader of advice columns, and I find them fascinating. And uh, so much of almost all of the problems that are sent into advice columnists are people having problems with the people in their lives who mean a lot to them, and that's what it is to be part of what it is to be human. One of our deepest needs that is required for flourishing, for a life of flourishing, feeling like, okay, my life is basically going well. So, yes, there's mattering to others.
I am perfectly comfortable throwing myself under any bus and telling the truth about myself because I think it's a way for people to learn. So I want to break something down and see how it applies outside of me. I questioned whether or not I was smart enough to talk to you. And I'm curious why people now I've kind of at 300-ish interviews later and the people I've talked to, I've had to largely get past that. Of course, we've got the harvard.edu email. And the closest thing I've been to Harvard is I've been Professor Callahan in Legally Blonde the musical on stage. That's the closest I've been to Harvard. So, I mean, I look at your experience and I look at your wisdom and I thought, am I smart enough to take her on?
Hmm.
Is that common?
I don't know. I mean, it's um
I don't want it to make you
yeah.
sad. I'm here.
Yeah. Um I well for hmm, I guess we all sometimes I feel this sometimes too about people that I consider terrifically brilliant, and I'm sometimes worried too. So I think it's quite common to feel. It's just I don't. It's always strange to think about it that somebody would feel that about oneself.
Your ego is having trouble with it because you don't get it. You're just as charming as you can be. You're easy to talk to. I've been completely, your face popped up on the screen and you made me smile. And I could not be happier to be here. But I
Yeah,
mean, I think that's a real, do I matter enough to be
yeah.
able to have this discussion? Will I matter? Will I still matter when all of this is over? And it's just, it was an observation that I really thought I wanted to make about me before I go on to another quote.
I'm still pondering what you
Uh,
said here.
oh, I know.
Nobody's ever said that to me, and
That's the best compliment you can give me is that if I ask you something, Vanna White from Wheel of Fortune told me I asked her something nobody'd ever asked her. I mean, when you think how many tens of thousands of interviews Vanna White has had, and I
yeah,
nailed the one
yeah,
question that I don't even remember what it was. I was so excited. But I mean, that's the greatest thing.
yeah.
The greatest thing you can say to me is I came up with something nobody else has come up with before. Another quote from the book that meant so much to me, do I matter?
Yeah,
This is the mother of our mattering questions. Ultimately, we want to know what matters because we desperately want our own lives to be driven by what matters. We want to know who matters because we desperately want to be numbered among the ones who matter.
yeah,
Now, to me, that's linking into this last idea, my own image of myself as being worthy of your time and your intellect. And I've had a quote out there that's been attributed to me for years. I'm an actor, and I'm a theater kid. I've been on stage. I'm still on stage. But one of the quotes I said, I used to think I wanted to be famous,
Yeah.
But now I realize I only want to matter. And
Yeah.
I've been saying that
Oh, Randy,
for
that is so wonderful, so
10 or 20
profound.
years. I've been saying,
Yes.
and for me to achieve that, I'm 63 now. I started this sort of journey of interviews and my first book and my second book and the different people that I've been able to talk to that have helped me. Uh, I started this at 50.
Oh,
So it's really been
yeah,
fascinating. And in order to really find out that you matter
yeah,
and to understand yourself, you have to be able to look in the mirror.
right, right.
Yeah.
So, we
And I'm
spoke
not
about,
afraid of the mirror. Yeah.
the mattering to others, and the thing that I'm really concentrating on this book is exactly the thing that you've just zeroed in on, which is, mattering to others has to do with our relationship with others. But there's this other component to a good life, to a human life, that distinguishes us from all the other species. Other species are gregarious and they need members of their species who are in their lives, who will pay them attention. But only we have this question, what I call the mother of all mattering questions. Do I matter? And the person we're trying to convince is ourselves, which seems paradoxical because it's kind of wired into our brain. I just said that we this self-mattering, but we can step outside of ourselves, and reflect on ourselves, see how much attention we pay to ourselves, and do I really deserve this? And so it ultimately comes down to trying to convince ourselves. And that is the other thing we need for a life of flourishing. We need to matter to others, and we need to convince ourselves, which is rather endearing. It's poignant. It's the poignancy in every human life that we have to convince ourselves that we are worthy, deserving of all this attention that we have to give ourselves. It's somewhat paradoxical, but it requires, looking at oneself, as you say.
Mhm.
And fame is one of the ways that increasingly people want, the attention of a lots of strangers, not people in their lives, but just strangers, because that's what it is to be famous.
Had I had any success at that level young, I would have been a monster. I guarantee you, I would have been an absolute monster. There are people now that think I am anyway. Huh. But I mean, I'm so happy that what has come to me later.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's come to me in a place where I'm able to understand how to accept it, but I'm able to understand that my purpose for being here isn't for me. We're talking today for everyone who's listening.
Exactly right. Yes. Yes.
I really want to help other people. That's the whole
Yes.
goal with everything.
Yes.
One of the things I found so fascinating related to this that you'd said is when it comes to our own mattering, we are staunch realists. We
Yeah.
don't want feelings. We want the facts.
We want, yes.
And,
Right.
and, and those are hard to come by when you're trying to
Exactly.
prove that you matter.
Exactly, and that is, again, that's that poignancy in us and the uncertainty, you know, and I tell lots of stories about people, for example, who did tremendous work. John Berryman, one of the most important poets of the 20th century, the mid-20th century. He had so much acclaim, for a poet, he was on the cover of Life magazine, for a poet, this is, unusual and great critical and popular successes. 77 Dream Songs they were a cultural phenomenon. Ends up committing suicide, right? The acclaim, you know, didn't wipe out that uncertainty, and the uncertainty is something we really have. You nailed it right there. That's a real hard thing. And there are many ways that people go about trying to convince themselves. It can be religious, spiritual, it can be through achievement, it can be through fame, it can be through power, money, um, it all sorts of ways of trying to ultimately convince themselves that they matter.
How do you, jumping ahead, how do you integrate? You have all this knowledge. How do you integrate your knowledge of this into your own relationships? Are you constantly, can you ever let the PhD go?
Oh, yeah, I've got a real silly side. Oh,
Well, no,
you
no,
talk
you're
to my
just as cu no,
friends.
I'm just gonna say it, you're adorable. You're just as cute as you can be. You were from the minute you popped on screen, I went, "I love her." But I because I just think you're precious. Um, but, yeah, I mean, can you just let the PhD go and
Oh,
just
yeah,
be?
easy.
Good.
Oh, easy. Yeah, no, I'm really I'm a very silly person. I need you know, my husband has a whole series of pictures of me just doing ridiculous things, and so, yeah. No, it's, I think, the key for me is, I take my ideas really seriously. They're what matter to me. They're what give me the feeling, of joy. They light me up when I feel like I'm making progress in them. Take my ideas seriously, but not to take myself too seriously. I think that's, I see I see the taking oneself too seriously in the circles I hang with, and people who have done amazing things. I mean, Nobel laureates, all this, but, it's a real turnoff for me when you take yourself too seriously or that you feel I have like a radar when people feel superior to others. I can sniff it out immediately, and it's a real turnoff for me. I actually do think to the extent that any of us, this is my philosophy too, to, to the extent that any of us matter objectively, the thing that we want, we all matter to that same degree, the exact same degree. It's our longing to matter, this poignant uncertainty in us that makes us matter, I would say. There's something so precious and individual about how we do this.
You're segueing into something that I think we have to touch upon. Is another quote from the book. Some seek to demonstrate their mattering by diminishing the mattering of others, such as racism, sexism, classism, jingoism, which I'd never heard of, elitism, ethnic biases, and other forms of mattering diminishment that we haven't even gotten around to naming.
It's true.
It is just at a horrific level. It's a level that is shocking me at 63 to my core,
Yeah,
how hate has been used and how people want to elevate themselves at the expense of another group, not just individual, but
exactly.
group of people.
Yes. And it all has to do with this longing to matter. And look, there are so many ways that you can appease this longing, beautiful ways, wonderful ways, but not always are good. And where's the guardrail? If you're appeasing your longing to matter at the expense of others, as you say, others who could be in your life, or whole groups of people. In the book later on, I get to somebody I really wanted to interview, either an incel or a neo-Nazi, a skinhead, somebody like that, and I wrote to many of them. I went on Reddit and I I was reading all their stuff, and I tried to interview, um, somebody, but, given my name alone, Rebecca Goldstein, the neo-Nazis didn't wanna have anything to do with me, nor did the incels. But I finally got somebody who did write back to me. He was an ex-neo-Nazi, and this was, like, so fun. I write about him at some length in the book. It was so interesting, like, it was his feeling that he just didn't matter in the world that caused him to latch onto this, you know, pernicious ideology, and he committed crimes in its service. He was a felon at the age of 17. He was put away. Met some black people in jail that he bonded with, saw they were okay. He's a smart guy, and he made his way, really triumphantly out of this ideology. But that's the really bad consequences that our longing can have. I say that it's responsible for our greatest achievements as a species and our greatest atrocities, because it gets to the heart of us, really, and what we are, people who we are capable of great goodness, great achievements, beautiful acts, and terrible atrocities.
My version of this is why? If someone will allow me to ask them a question, they'll give me a fluffy answer. I'll say why. And
Yeah.
then they dig a little deeper. I say why. If they'll let me, as long as they'll let me annoy them with the why,
Yes.
dig, dig,
Yes.
and dig. When you actually dig down and find the why somebody has a belief system, there is some reason that
Yes.
you can at least understand how they got there, even if you don't understand their current belief.
Exactly. So
It all
you've
comes
had
down
this
to the why. Yeah,
you've
to
had this
me, it comes down to the
experience.
why, yeah.
It does indeed. It's and I think, this would be helpful in this time of incredible division and animosity to, as you say, get down to the why. And you're there when you can see the humanness in the other person. How they're very humanist, their own vulnerability, uncertainty, hurt, whatever got them to this hateful position, and I mean, I'm not gonna mince words, it's hateful.
Mhm.
Uh,
It most certainly is. Another fascinating aspect, I mean, like I said, I can keep going. I have so many pages of notes just from the first 30% of the book. The preponderance of possibilities in our disfavor explains why there are so many more negative emotions than positive ones, so many more bad choices that lay open to us than good ones, so many more ways to achieve unhappiness than happiness, all because there are so many more ways to achieve disorder than order. You literally referenced in language, there's more words
yes, I
to
actually went I
describe disorder than order.
exactly,
There's more language.
there and more, I went through all the words for emotions, and there are so many more negative emotions because there are so here's the thing, it is so another way that we can feel the humanness for one another and sympathy and a little bit of mercy and charity is, it's really hard to be human. We have to convince ourselves, you know, that we have the right to pursue our lives with all of this sense of deservingness that we naturally have, and that is such an extra burden, and it takes up so much of our energy, and people are willing to sacrifice their life for that, for this. They'll give up their life if it if that's what it takes to convince themselves that they matter. So it is
You reference the
hard.
arts, people in the arts. You reference authors
Exactly.
and painters who will give up their life in order to. It was a beautiful quote that one of the ones I saved
Yeah,
because
and
I'm such an arts advocate, how we will give up everything in order to achieve this artistic goal.
exactly. So it's not like, episodic happiness that we're after. We're after something much deeper. Here's another thing. I don't remember if I said it in the book because often when I would say it, people would be so taken aback that I I don't know if I kept it in the book. We are not as shallow, none of us, as we might appear to be. It is real. There is to be human because we harbor this longing to matter, to convince ourselves that we're worthy of all this attention we have to give ourselves. This is, uh, there. There's a depth to every human being. I live in downtown Boston, live near, South Station, and it's a gathering place for a lot of homeless people, and even in the dead of winter, I was walking home late last night, and it is bitter cold here in Boston right now. There are people sleeping outside, and and I pass them and I think, "This is a human being deep down." This was a child, this was a and at some point, they too wanted to make they didn't wanna waste their life. There's nothing sadder than to see a life that's being wasted because of missed opportunities, because of society not taking care of them in any way.
You know what
Families
you just said that made me, I'm sorry, but because I
yeah,
had a reaction.
yeah.
This was a child.
This was a child.
I've never thought of a homeless adult as having at one point in time been a child. I've never thought of that.
When you do that, when you it is the emotion that comes forth, the sense of tragedy, because of, a life that is just fighting for bare survival, that doesn't even have the chance to think, "Do I matter or not?" It's just bare survival. It's a life, that's been so reduced from what it ought to be, and that's just tragic. That's just tragic.
I could keep going. I'm not done. I have to mention a couple other things. Cartesian dualism. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Cartesian dualism. And who was that credited to? Rene Descartes? Descartes? Descartes.
Yeah, Descartes.
Okay, so I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. Here's what's crazy, and basically his quote is more complicated, but it's the philosophical view that the mind, an immaterial thinking substance, and the body, a material unthinking extended substance, are fundamentally distinct entities that interact. And you gave the story of your child.
Yeah, my
You
little
gave the
girl.
story of your child saying, "I can't believe my body did that." Can I say to you, I just want to tell you the irony of what happened because it was so crazy. I've always thought of myself as one. I'm one entity. I have a brain, I have a soul. It's all part of one package. I've only ever thought of myself as one package that includes all these things until a week before I read this book. I swear to you, a week before I read this book, I thought, I'm at my best, I think, emotionally. My memory's not what it should be. I'm 63. The nouns are leaving me by nouns. I mean, it's okay, but at least I'm happy with who I am. I'm happier with where I am. I'm in a 30-year relationship with an extraordinary man. My soul, my heart is in a great place. Oh, but my body's probably going to give out on my soul and my heart before it
Mhm.
really is ready to go. For the first time, Rebecca.
Yeah, isn't that
Ever I thought
yeah.
of it being interrelated, related, and two separate entities, and then I read this theory, and it just it's a meant to be moment. It's just a meant to be moment of how you in this book came into my life to explain things to me.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. Yeah, and there are philosophy is often poo-pooed by scientists. I mean, I love science and my area was philosophy of science, so I think, to bring them together that they're not natural enemies, they're natural friends. Um, but there are so many deep ideas in the history of philosophy that really relate to, to all of us, to all people. And so, I think it's a very good thing. I guess, that's the whole thing of am I a public intellectual? In the sense that I think I have been so lucky to be able to study these ideas for most of my life, and they've clarified things for me, my life. They help me raise my children, and they help me have the relationships I have. And I wanna give them. I just want to give them to people, right? Through teaching, but even more broadly, through developing ways of writing that make them accessible. Because, okay, I think that we humans, precisely because we are these creatures who long to matter, that's a philosophical world. That makes us philosophical creatures, that
Mhm.
we are made to be receptive to these ideas. And too often academic philosophers talk in language that is accessible only to each other, right? It's like the jargony shorthand and it keeps other people out. That's another way of feeling superior, right? Everything in
Oh,
my
I would
soul
agree.
goes
Mhm.
against anything, all the ways we have of trying to feel superior to one another. I mean, that this is, to me, this is the key to ethics.
Well, in your book too, the anecdotes and the stories, the one about your child, the different people you've talked to, the examples really actually help to really illustrate that the theories that you're making. I will tell you my favorite quote in the whole book. There just doesn't seem to be enough mattering to go around, and
Yeah,
we scramble like children beneath the pinata.
that, yeah, that's
That's just the way I feel we're living.
exactly. It's this is the
Combative. That's
crisis.
combative. The pinata game
It's
that we all played as kids, that's even
I've
combative.
seen kids get vicious under that thing, right? And I've seen people, grown-ups, vicious, this. And here's, one of the things is that our we have a culture right now that sets up certain people as mattering more than others, and it's basically those who are uh, inordinately rich, inordinately famous, and inordinately powerful. And that leaves out most of us. It just leaves out most of us. There's got to be an imbalance there. It's not just the income um, inequity. It's the mattering inequity, which matters so much more. So yeah,
We're
it's not.
running. I have to touch upon what we started earlier, and you say it changes with time. I had referenced living in Florida, that I lived in Florida for 14 years.
Right,
And you are
right.
absolutely right. Once you get older and you're starting to be erased, and I've experienced ageism at 63. It's absolutely happened to me. It's happened to me where I live now in my hometown. It happened to me in Florida, where I was not necessarily old. You just get dismissed as
Yes,
aging. There's loneliness as part of it. I have known
that's right.
incredibly famous people that I've had on this show that kept me on the phone an hour and a half because they were lonely. I mean,
Yeah,
people you'd be stunned to learn were actually lonely, and it just broke my heart. But that's where it really hits home,
yes,
that because you did matter, especially if, like in Naples, Florida, CEOs, all these wildly successful, quote unquote, important people who are now retired and have to wait in line like everybody else.
yes, 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 yeah,
And
yeah.
Florida very largely, thank you, Florida, taught me how to age, because I saw the difference between, yes, be physically fit. I get it. I'm a medical writer. I'm all about being physically fit, seeing the doctor, taking care of yourself. But people who think, people who engage, people who read, people who get involved, people who are willing to learn something new,
Best way to stay young, I think. Yeah,
that's the way to go. I've seen it.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
seen it over and over and over again. If I'm going to give you a little break, because I'm going to read a very long section.
Okay.
I'm reading a very long section, and you're gonna I've rehearsed this because I think it's so important. The impact of you'll get it. The impact of this, I think, is so important based on what we've said. Linked to our selving is the full, exquisite mechanism of human emotions. Our entire emotional repertoire, so rich and nuanced, has evolved to give us feedback regarding how things are going for us so that we might adjust our responses accordingly. Affection, aggrievement, anger, annoyance, anxiety, apathy, arousal, awe, bewilderment, boredom, confidence, confusion, contempt, contentment, courage, curiosity, desire, despair, disappointment, disgust, distrust, dread, embarrassment, enthusiasm, envy, excitement, fear, frustration, gratification, gratitude, grief, guilt, happiness, hatred, hope, horror, hostility, humiliation, hurt, indifference, indignation, interest, intimidation, jealousy, loneliness, love, lust, outrage, pain, pity, pleasure, pride, rage, regret, rejection, relief, remorse, resentment, sadness, shame, shyness, surprise, suspicion, trust, wonder, worry, and other emotions that we haven't gotten around to naming. The complexity and variations of our emotional repertoire correspond to the complexity and variations of the situations to which we feel we must give our full attention, because they have implications for our own well-being.
That's the kind of complex people we are. Yes,
And
yes.
I felt like when I read that list, and when I have to read this list out loud, because we talked about all the words. We
We
referenced that
have.
earlier.
Boy, I can tell you were made for the stage, that you you did that beautifully. I could never do that.
Well, I messed up one. I've actually run it. I've rehearsed it a few times. I've ran it a couple times without messing up completely. But I, I just think it's so important. I'm so grateful for this. I find you utterly charming.
Oh, thank you.
My whole reason for being is to try to treat people as if they are important, to
Yes.
find the importance in them and give them that respect. Am I successful all the time? No. Are there people listening to this right now who do not like me? Sure. I mean, and that's okay. That's okay. They think, wow, he doesn't treat me well at all. I mean, but that is the goal. The goal is for me is to look for the best in people. And once I made the decision to look for the best in people and interview and interview and interview and talk to these people and talk to you, what is the best in Rebecca, which I highlighted an entire book. There's so much best of Rebecca. You know, I couldn't even absorb it all. There's so much best in Rebecca. If we can just celebrate the best in others, it's just an
Oh,
easier way to live.
oh, it is an easier way, and and people come up. I see this with my students, if you believe in them, they believe in themselves, and they are capable of so much more under those
Mhm.
circumstances, You greet them with skepticism, yeah, they're gonna be self-conscious, they're gonna get paralyzed, like that poor, what was his name? The guy who just screwed up on the figure ice skating, the American who just
Oh, bless his
oh,
heart.
uh,
Oh, I
but, he
know.
heard the voices, the negative voices in his head, he was remembering all the failures, and he screwed up. I mean, yeah, what we can give each other is our faith and that we have
Okay,
faith in each
you know
other.
what? When I saw that, what I thought?
Yeah,
Sarah Hughes. Remember Sarah Hughes?
yeah,
Sarah
yeah,
Hughes just comes like, I have nothing to lose. This is what, 20 years ago or whatever, when she won
yeah,
the gold medal, because she
yeah,
wasn't expected to do anything.
that's
But
right,
she didn't have any expectations.
exactly.
She just skated
Yeah,
because there was no pressure.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
thought that, and I saw that poor young man who will bounce
yeah.
back,
Of
who
course
we're
he will,
still
he's
so
only
proud of.
22, he's got time.
But I thought to myself, I want to be a Sarah Hughes. I want
Yeah,
to be the
actually, the
one.
guy who walked away with the gold, the guy, from Kazakhstan, he also had nothing. He didn't think he had a chance at gold, and he was, so, but yeah, no, that inner voice
Yeah.
saying, "No, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy." I remembering all the failures, and we're all, oh my God, I'm very subject to this, very, very subject. We all are.
It's such a special book. Again, I want a relationship with this book. I don't interview, I adopt. Please stay in my life.
Oh, with
Please,
pleasure.
please know
Oh,
I am so here for you. I support you. I will be very vocal in my support of you. I want to continue to study this. I actually really felt like this. I want this in a class. To me, the book.
mm.
I want a class. I would
You know what?
really love
I
to
would
take
love to
a
teach a
class.
class in this, and in some sense, I would love to teach a class of, people who are not college age, but have lived long enough to
Hmm.
know it's a hard thing to do,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
to live a
yeah.
human life. The people that I've been privileged to teach are themselves very privileged people. Life has gone very well, they're in very good colleges and
Uh-huh.
such, good families, and, yeah, and, sometimes I'll hear from my students decades later, and they'll say, your words were there. I didn't appreciate them, but now I do." And I think, and then that makes me feel good. Okay, I implanted something and it's there, so they'll
Soapbox, soapbox, Randy's soapbox. If a teacher, guide, mentor, boss said something to you that meant something to you, it is very easy to find that person if they're still living and tell them that.
yeah. No, it
Rebecca
made
is
me
telling us how important that is. Please, 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 please find that teacher, look them up, tell them what they meant to you. I say it all the time, and I've
yeah,
done it.
yeah.
And I've
Well,
done it
yeah.
repeatedly. Again, the book, The Mattering Instinct, How Our Deepest Longing Drives Us and Divides Us, Rebecca Newberger Goldstein, even though you said the Steen, but you gave me permission to do the Stein. So we'll do the Goldstein, RebeccaGoldstein.com for more information. What a treat. What is so necessary. I'm so grateful. And this started out with me growling at you, and look how well it went. It
I was a
started out with a growl. The look
yeah.
on your face was pretty funny. It's like, the man is growling at me. But I was like,
Yeah.
"Arr."
This has been a sheer delight, and I do hope I'll hear from you, as
Oh, you
you
will.
go forward in the book,
You
and
will, but I have one more question.
yes.
I have one more question. The last question I ask every guest. You can answer this however you wish,
Okay.
using whatever criteria you wish. Rebecca Newberger Goldstein, I want to make sure I get all the names and I'm reading them.
It's a long name.
What do you know?
What do I know? I know every human being matters. That is the thing I know. I stake my life on that. Yeah.
For more information, visit onthenose.com. Please be sure to follow On the Nose with Randall Kenneth Jones on YouTube and subscribe on your preferred podcast platform. For On the Nose, I'm Susan Bennett, the original voice of Siri. And yes, I know. Do you? If not, see you next time.